bring and what we bring to the table. Tinaka.
Or would we like to do speaker introductions at this point? Mama Joana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Tinaka, my name is Joana Monolagi, and I am a knowledge holder. Work 2 years ago with these two wonderful people, Tarisi Vunidilo and Alipate Trail on the PCAP project Fiji. It was such an honor and a pleasure to do that. Tinaka.
Tinaka. Tarisi, Dr. Tarisi Vunidilo.
Vinaka Vakalevu. Really want to thank you all for the warm invitation to be able to be here today. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tarisi Vunidilo. I'm originally from the beautiful island and province of Kandavu, the best part of Fiji, on the southern part. And I really enjoyed working with my two colleagues, Alipate and Joana, in 2016 when we were working for the PCAP project. I'm currently living here in Hilo, Hawaii, teaching at the anthropology department here at the University of Hawaii. Vinaka Vakaleo.
And Alipate Trail.
Naka, my name is Alipate Trail, one of the knowledge holders as well. As mentioned, was blessed to be a part of the PCAP program 2 years ago. Originally born and raised in the capital of Fiji, Suva. Parents from different parts of Fiji as well. Dad's from the first capital of Fiji, the island of Levuka, or Ovalau, town of Levuka. Mum's from the larger island of Fiji, Vanuatu, Savu Bay area. Yeah, currently I work full-time in aviation, but my sideline passion, as most of you probably know, is in the culture and arts. I run a Fijian school of dance and culture based in West Auckland at the Corbin's Arts Centre. We're with the Pacifica Arts Centre as well, with the mamas out that way. I've been running that for about 3 years now. And we also introduced at the beginning of this year basic language of vosa vakaviti to all our New Zealand-born Kaiviti Kiwis, as we call them. So that's quite an awesome, exciting work to be a part of as well. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
We are also joined from Auckland Museum by Yumiko Baba. Yumiko, you're muted.
Again, Nisabla Vinaka. My name is Yumiko. I'm Associate Curator of Botany. I work with the plant collections held at the Herbarium in the Auckland Museum. For those who don't know herbarium is, the herbarium is a special term given to the facility which houses flattened and dried plant specimens. And it operates just like a kind of scientific library of plants. So I just give you a little bit of collection we hold from Fiji. So we hold about 1,900 of plant specimens collected from Fiji. All of them are donated to us by various botanists over many different years. The herbarium started receiving steadily these specimens from 1940s from often eminent botanists, New Zealand botanists who surveyed Fiji's rich and diverse flora. These specimens represent only a fraction of this Fijian flora, but still we are very privileged to be able to look after them. And these are very important scientific reference for us. Under our care, we have several very special plant specimens. That is Masiratu, one of the very iconic plant species, only found in Fiji. A short story for this week. Just and please check it out. I'm very excited about tonight because the conversation is around plants, not only just about plants themselves, but traditional and contemporary knowledge about them. So looking forward to learning everything about everything about plants that will be shared in this talanoa. Vinaka.
So I'll to you, Joana, to lead as you would like as we go, and I'll move along the slides for you as we get to each of the taonga.
Yeah, the pandanus. Well, that's a big tree in the back there. Pandanus, of course, is grown widely in Fiji. Sometimes they actually grow wild in the bush there. I'm sure there are different varieties too. You'd find it throughout the Pacific. With the pandana leaves, the voivoi, women, what comes out of that are our mats, our baskets, our fans, other little things that our mamas today look to the voivoi as to make things in the home. I have grown up with voivoi and watching our mothers, our aunties, how they prepare them. It's such a long processing work, and I'm sure it's a very tiring work. As a child looking at that, it just makes me so tired looking at how they go out and harvest these leaves. The ones that we have, where I grew up from, they have prickles on both edge of the leaves. And of course, you know, as children, we have to watch how we go into the bush without being cut with one of these leaves. You see them bring them home, and then they start the process of peeling and burning, cooking, boiling them in hot water to soften them. The drying process takes place before they actually start the weaving. Yeah, it was just amazing to me to see that these tree could do so many things, so many wonderful things comes out of it. I'll open that to the audience, to our panelists.
Tarisi or Alipate, is there anything you would like to add, or Yumiko?
Yes, if I can continue on from Joana. Yeah, this image brings a lot of memories. My mom was a mat weaver, a very prolific one. She can weave anything with anything, and especially with the voivoi, as Joana has mentioned. So that's the generic word for the pandanus as we're looking at now. And I remembered her planting them beside our house in Dolisuva where I grew up. And she always plant like close to the like a creek or a river, like it grows well in the swampy areas. And I used to remember going over to go and cut them. It's quite a big job, and I remember, as Joana said, it's got thorns. It's got thorns, and when we were little, my mom always tell us not to come close to where she's cutting them. There's a process, the name that she calls tavi-tavi. Tavi was the Fijian word that she always say that when she goes to harvest voivoi. Yeah, as Joana rightly said, it's a lot of work. You know, the harvesting and then the dethorning and then the coiling and then the boiling and then the sunning. And then my favorite part was when it dries, then we have to unfurl it using the
Freshwater mussel.
yes, the freshwater mussels, the actual shell. So we have to use it to unfurl it to make it straight, and then we coil it again to make the vimbini, yeah, the vimbini voivoi. So yes, so a lot of memories, but the amazing things that can be made from there, eh? The mats and the fences, Joana said, the baskets, and of course with the mats you have the different types of mats. But I just want to share the language part. From where I'm from, in Kandavu, we often use the word kie. Kie was the word that we use, K-I-E, and then the name for the mats, the generic one is what we call the idoni. We call it idoni, and I know with the Lauans from the Lau province, they call their generic mats as iamba. So again, very interesting to see the same process, but then the names of it changes and differs across different parts of Fiji. Over to you, Pate.
Just follow up with the usage of the name of voivoi in other parts. You mentioned kie is used, and in New Zealand, kie is used for another member of the group, Freixnetia banksia in New Zealand. And there's a connection there between same family member of plants in Fiji called kie and kie in New Zealand, which is really interesting.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think in Tonga as well, they have one of the waste mats called kie. So very interesting. Yeah, from Kandavu, where I'm from on the south, that's the usual name we call our pandanus, the kie. Thanks, Dr. Yomiko, for sharing that. Yeah.
And also sometimes pandanus has got very sharp teeth like edge on the leaf, and probably your mother told not to go to harvesting sites too closely, because when the leaves is fallen to you, then you might cut the skin. And do you do some preparation to remove these teeth beforehand? Do you work with voivoi?
Yes, if I remember, when I was little, mom always, I remember she always have like one glove in one of her hand, maybe because she was right-handed. She always have a glove, if she can find a glove, you know, those thick cloth ones. And then for me, I remember sitting with her, she always have a very sharp knife to take away the thorn on the side, and also in the middle, it's like a spine. Yep. Got a sharp spine in the middle. So there's the thorn on the side and the spikes in the middle, I remember. They always have, I think they call it the soni. That's a process, we call it the soni kie. If my mom calls us to go and do the dethorning, which is not a fun job, but I like to support my mom, and she always say the soni. Soni means to take away the thorn.
Cool.
It's Ewan here, and I've got a question for your ladies who have dealt with the pandanus for cultural reasons. In many of the Pacific Islands, there's a form that doesn't have these spines that Yumiko mentioned. And of course, that has a great advantage for people wanting to weave with it. Do you have that unspined cultivar in Fiji?
Yeah, yes. I think I can say yes if I remember. Maybe Joana can add to it too. I remember my mom often classify the voivoi into two. She often called the one with the thorns as voivoi indina, the true voivoi, or maybe now that I'm older, I kind of realize maybe that must be either an indigenous one. I'm not sure. But then the other one, which doesn't have thorns, she always call it the voivoi nivalang, or the more like the introduced voivoi. So that was interesting, yeah. So while growing up and looking at the voivoi plants, every time I see a voivoi with thorns, I know in my mind that it is like maybe endemic to Fiji or indigenous. I'm not sure which word is the correct one. But the ones with no thorns, she always say that's a voivoi nivalang or introduced voivoi.
Yeah, that's fascinating. They said because the origin of the thornless one is unknown, and it must have been a mutation that happened somewhere, but it was such an advantage that it spread throughout Polynesia quite quickly for obvious reasons. So I think what you're told about one introduced and one native is very much true.
Also in New Flora of Fiji, it talks about introduced voivoi cultivated around the villages, and that's is native to Samoa and Tonga, that area as well. So it may be the thornless one too.
And also, if I can add too, we also have the variety, which is is it what we call maybe the wild voivoi or the vandra?
Is that the
one that, yeah, the one with the long stalk, pate, the one that grows in the beach areas. And we have a lot here in Hawaii, and sometimes the Hawaiian students ask me, oh, do you use that for your mats? And I say, no, we don't use the vandra, but we use the pandanus. So yeah, interesting. If Dr. Yumiko want to add more about the vandra or pate? Pate, you want to share?
I just remember vividly helping my grandmother Mbumbu in the village, harvesting the leaves. You normally harvest from the bottom and you follow the growth pattern, cutting it kind of an upward spiral pattern, and you leave the youngest shoots at the top that the plant would continue to produce more leaves for future harvest. That's what I remember about that harvesting voivoi. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like how the Maoris harvest the New Zealand flags, the harakeke.
Yes.
The Fijian pandanus or the voivoi is done the same way.
Fast. I'll move the slide along, but keep talking about the pandanus however you'd like.
Joana, I have the skirt or the liku here that we made for Meke Aotearoa last year. I'll just hold it up so that you can have a look. This is one right here. Okay, so this is made out of the same pandanus. Yeah.
Just.
Yeah. That's that.
Nakapate.
So Alipate, would you like to start with this one?
Yes, sure. Wonderful. The beautiful Irini Meke. Exactly what we were using last night with our little kids getting ready for Fiji Day on Saturday. this particular fans are for dancing, its main purpose here. Nowadays, of course, many people use it for house decorations. Maybe you've been to some of the resorts in Fiji, you see them up on the walls as well. But yeah, same material is used, pandanus. The main handle of the fan itself is probably a piece of bamboo that's been splintered and cut and meticulously weaved over with black and white pandanus. The kind of the teardrop shape rib that you see around the outer leaves is actually the midriff of the coconut leaf, or sa broom as we call it. Again, bound over with pandanus as well. And the top of the fan, we see the tassel at the top, that's actually wild hibiscus, the bark of the wild hibiscus. And your black color that you see on the fan, that's being dyed usually in the swamp or with other forms of dye as well. I think Joana will probably know the process of dyeing it in the swamp or using modern dyes as well. But yeah, beautiful when you see both the women or the men using this in traditional and contemporary types of dance. Still a very beautiful thing to see in Fijian performing arts today. Yeah, and we'll see some of that on Saturday at Fiji Day as well.
And in Fiji also with the fans, to do with the fans, a lot of different types of fans from different villages are woven from the Voivoi. They're just wonderful things to have hanging in your homes or give away as presents. There's a lot of fans coming out now with names on them, but they are not made. There's only one village in Fiji, they make those particular fans, but they're not made by bandana leaves. They're from the coconut farms.
Mm. Mm. And Joana, would you say that fans nowadays have actually really shrunk in size as you look back to performances from around the 1800s or even Independence Day 1970? Some of those things were huge, like really, really big, like overly exaggerated, but beautiful.
Yeah.
But beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think because for me, for my understanding is to do with climate change, perhaps. It's the way the foliages, the shrubberies are growing these days. Some shrinking in size. Like in the old days, they grew wild and big. Hence the reason you see the size back in the day, these fans were really, really big compared to what we have today. I'm just thinking, I'm just putting it down to climate change. Is what's happening on the earth, in the atmosphere, could be one of the factors to do with the growth system.
And if I can add to that as well, the black voivoi, yes, you can see there is the som. Yes, it's the one that is submerged in the mud. So yeah, that's another interesting process. And I remembered my mom making the somo too. Another long process as well. A lot of patience.
Too, right?
Yeah. It's sort of like when we see the end result, we all admire and said, "Oh, sarere binak," with a lot of admiration, but a lot of work that is put in, particularly on the black one that you see there, which is the somo.
So how long would it take to do the dyeing process for the pandanus?
As far as I remember, my mom always say that it has to be submerged for about like 3 or 4 days at least. And then you have to take it out after, and she finds, now I'm trying to remember which plant, when she chooses the mud place for her to submerge the voivoi, then it has to be added with another leaf. It has kind of like a yellow flower. I'm not sure if Joana or Pate might know, but that's, I don't know the name of the plant, but she always have another plant to put with the voivoi when it's submerged. There must be a scientific purpose for it to make it more black, I'm sure. I don't know whether Dr. Yumiko, are you familiar with that plant?
I'm afraid not. I was about to ask, oh, which plant is this?
In some parts of Polynesia, they use a mangrove to make it black.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know the Fijian names of mangroves, but I assume you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Rhizophora and those sorts of plants help it stain it black.
Yeah, because I know with the Masi, yeah, as far as I know, we use the mangrove for the tapa, for the Masi. What else do we use the mangrove for? Yeah, but maybe we'll have to talk to Joana with Ngande. I'm not sure if the people in Laos might have a Laoan recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to talk to my sister, my older sister, if she remembers, because yeah, we always get involved in the making of the somo. So I'll try and find out if I know the name of the plant. I can send the group a message.
Would you like me to move on to the next taonga?
Yeah, probably.
Beautiful. I wish I have this in my house.
Yeah. I wish I had 20 or maybe the whole museum collection.
Yes.
It's actually on display in our Pacific Pathways Gallery if anyone does want to come to the museum to have a look at it in person.
You can see there the handle of the tambua is the voivoi again is used here. They also use the voivoi with a different type of plait for the handle of the tambua. Yeah.
It's almost a twisted one, eh? That that particular weave.
Yes, the 45, yeah. Yeah. And this one here is just twisted, eh? Yeah.
Of course, the yellower the tambua, the more ancient it's considered. Therefore, its value is probably higher. Yeah, compared to the more recently made ones, eh? So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is a unique, very unique
shape, yeah.
Because I remember growing up when I went to Nambour Secondary for art and craft classes, we usually make the box kind of weave, the one that we normally see today. But this is quite, you know, it's quite simple, but it's good to see that, you know, back in the day, they have this kind of weave too. Yeah, this is like a tambuandamu, eh?
Yeah, it's yeah. I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
it's a smaller one, eh?
What's the significance of the tambua?
Tambua basically is, you can almost say that it has the power over life and death in the old days. Yeah. Still today, tambua has the power to forgive, you know, major incidents. You know, I mean, today in our books today, basically, I mean, yeah, serious crime as well. Tambua has the power to bridge that that gap of reconciliation. Yeah. Yeah, the accounts of historical accounts of stories, even legends and myths, abound with so many tales of tambuas being sent, commissioned by two different tribes to plan the assassination of a particular tribe or their leader or their chief, or for hand in marriage. Yeah, tambua is basically the highest, one of the highest forms of payment in Fijian culture. So still very significant in today's use of, weddings, birthdays, funerals, still very much used today in Fiji and internationally as well amongst the Fijian diaspora.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a form of currency for us. To add on to pate, it's also used for settling disagreements, or bringing in, uniting certain tribes. So this is sort of like the highest level of our treasure that can bind, vanua, or bind certain tribes. And I think if I recall, in some of the ceremonies or songo that I've attended while growing up in Fiji, in some ceremonies, you expect to see a tambua. And I often recall my dad feeling upset if he goes to a songo or a ceremony and there's no tambua. For a man, that's kind of like an embarrassment, that they always must have 3 to 5 tambuas in their house. I remember my dad always kind of, remind my two brothers that for a man, they must have that always, because you never know, relatives might come home, with a certain purpose of a certain event that requires a tambua to be used. And usually a tambua is used with another tambua. That's always like a method of transaction. I give a tambua, you receive another one back. And when there's one party with a tambua and another one doesn't, it's always like there's a lesser of that kind of, it has to be equal. Yeah, that's just a memory I have about the tambua. If anyone else want to add their stories?
The tambua is also used too for asking if you want to marry a Fijian woman, like a man must bring that to the family, the vulvali, and say, like, I'd like to ask this woman's hand in marriage. Well, even in my own home, my mum hides our tambuas so that we don't have to trade it off with another tambua.
Smart, very smart.
Thank you, Vinaka. Vinakwa.
Yes, when they do ask for a hand in marriage, it's up to dad, the girl's father, to accept it or not. So if they don't, they're not going to accept your tambua. So you walk back home with all your tambuas. So.
Yes. Very interesting too is just recently I saw that the Fijian government has established a kind of a treaty, a relationship with a number of countries, including New Zealand, where this is a restricted item now, of course, due to conservation as well overseas, the endangerment of whales and so forth. So the teeth or the tambua as well is considered a restricted item in that sense. But you can still get a special grant from the Fijian government that you're allowed to take it overseas, but it takes about 2 weeks to process. So a number of Fijian people over the last couple of years have been getting these taken off them at the borders, arriving in Auckland, Australia, the States as well. And just recently, the New Zealand government or Auckland airport authorities had repatriated almost 150 tambua back to the Ministry of Fijian Affairs, where these were sent back to the original owners. So you're still allowed to bring this out, but there's a process that you have to allow for time to process, to get your paperwork, and then that should be allowed as you come back into the country. But Yeah, very interesting indeed. They recognize the significance of it, which is actually a blessing on our part. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Mm. Yeah, and if I can share too about the transaction of the tambua, there's, you know, we have a process called the ndirikini tambua. So ndirikini tambua, going back to Joana's example, Joana with the family asking for the girl's hand, and if the girl's father disagrees or does not accept it, then yeah, usually it has to be double the amount that they brought in. So it's always like there's a mathematical formula, which I really want to explore at some point in my life, to look at ethnomathematics. I'm really interested in that at the moment, you know, to look at how, you know, our ancestors utilize, you know, their mathematical knowledge, and look at how our treasures like this are used as a form of, you know, monetary transaction and value. It's really amazing. And I still get questions today as to, you know, did the tambua originate in Fiji? What was the tambua in the past? So that's another, I'm not sure what the answer is. But I always kind of, you know, refer to the Tongans, because the Tongans has a lot of influence with us, you know, in Fiji. They were the ones that cut up the whale's tooth and decorate our war clubs, you know. So only the Tongans can do that. So I have to say thank you to Tonga, Malo, you know, for decorating some of our amazing pieces that you have at the museum. And the whale's tooth is the source of those beautiful pieces.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think we also wanted to discuss Vuni Masi or the paper mulberry. So I'll hand back over to everyone.
Wow, look at all these beautiful Masi trees. And I know our queen from Hilo has been planting Masi over there. Yes, the Masi, there's a lot of work goes into the finished product. But before that, the planting of these, the paper mulberry, the clearing, the preparation, the clearing of the land, and then you go and collect all the shoots to be planted. And these can grow into as tall, I don't know how tall these are. They look like maybe 3 meters, 3 meters tall. But I believe there's some, they grow taller than that. And there's a process that goes regarding these Masi trees. They have to be taken care of, attended to every day because of bugs, any type of disease, rainy season, to stop that rot in these trees. If they're found, of course, they're destroyed because it just ruins the inner bark that's needed for the Masi. It's a big process from the start to the finish. And I admire people with Masi plantation. It takes a family, I think, to look after one of these precious plantation. Just to see these trees in this picture, it's to me, it's a healthy looking plantation. And it's ready, I think it's ready for harvesting, because I can see the next lot of shoots almost halfway there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Joanna, do you know time-wise how long to maturity before harvest from a young plant?
I think within the 1 to 2 years, maybe, for harvest.
Okay.
Yeah. That's if it's they're in a hurry for, you know, for if they have if the family has an order to meet, so the harvest becomes early, a little bit earlier than normal. But I'm so happy for Fiji that it's this process is still happening today. They're still planting, they're still harvesting, they're still doing all the wonderful things to do with Masi. I know some things have faded away, but at least the plantations are still growing, and we're still able to pick up Masi today. Yeah. Anyone would like to share some something else about this plantation or the Masi itself?
Yeah, yeah, if I can add something there, if I can just share my Hawaii experience at the moment that Joanna just shared. Vinaka for sharing it. Yes, I've been involved in, you know, trying to revive the planting of the Masi here in Hawaii. They call it kapa or wauke, actually. They call it wauke in this stage when it's still plant form. And they have two types. So one is the manalima and the other one is the poaha. So the poaha, the leaves doesn't, the manalima, it kind of like looks like fingers like this. So lima, so 5 fingers. So the leaves spread out like that. I'm just looking at the leaves. This one looks like a manalima. You can see the spaces in between the leaves. The ones, the poaha, they all closed. And they, according to Auntie Rowan, who is actually a first cousin of Sarah Bishop, who's actually working there at the Auckland Museum, Sarah. So we've been going to her farm here in Waimea, and it's been a real wonderful experience to compare the Fijian Masi and the Hawaiian Wauke. And it's really awesome that according to Auntie Rowan, you know, she says that it's nice that we are coming in and showing interest on the Masi. So it's something that I really want to encourage our young ones to be interested in replanting a lot of this Masi. Of course, I understand in Fiji, I'm not sure if Anna or Pate, you want to add to this, because in Fiji, the women of Mode from Laos, they are really making a lot of the Masi, but because they're from the outer island, they're actually going over to Raki in Ra on the northeastern side of Italy to go and harvest the plants. They knew that the Masi was there, but the women of Ra, they don't make Masi anymore. So that is very interesting to see, that there's a modern demand for the Masi, but a lot of the women of Mode are now trying to, you know, replant, but at the moment they're going over to Raki in Ra to harvest the Masi. Yes, such a beautiful plant to look at, and as Joanna said, it's a lot of energy that we put forward to the cultivation and making sure, if I can remember to Tawe, when it's the trees growing, you have to keep taking off the smaller little branches so that it doesn't create the holes when you're actually making the Masi. Eta, would you like to share that too?
Yeah, that process, the Masi tree, the perfect Masi tree has to be nice and tall. So as they're growing, we call it viti. Viti is to snap off any extra little branches coming through. And we don't break it right off. We just snap it that it stays hanging there and it'll drop off on its own. That's also to stop when we peel the bark and go into that beating process, the Masi doesn't have a lot of big holes in them, then of course there's another process of covering up, patching up all those holes. So when this takes place, to stop that from happening, it's snapping off those extra branches, those little baby branches, but leaving them hanging there that they'll just fall off on their own.
Very interesting. Nakataw.
And I think from what I've heard too with Masi plants is you plant it and it grows like wildfire, eh? Like just spreads naturally. So it's quite a good plant, yeah, grows on its own. Yeah.
Yeah. And gosh, doesn't those women have such strong teeth?
Yes.
They're really amazing to me to watch, when they're peeling off the beginning of it, and then you pull. Wow.
Yeah, I think for our area in Nandronga, we mainly just rely on vatulele. Because when I think about our coastline and hardly anyone really plants around there because, but yeah, I know that when I go home, usually when I ask where we're getting our masi from, it would come from vatulele.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good that Vatulele is still taking on the role in keeping the tradition alive. And in Lau, the islands of Mode, I think also Nayau. And yeah, and I think also parts of Taveuni. There's a number of women. I think the women of Wainikeli, they still make the masi, when they are preparing for a songo or a ceremony. Yeah. So yes, Julia, Julia who works there, she's from Mode. Yay! Maybe Julia, if you are online, you should share some of your stories from Mode. Because that's very special because you're from there. There's some memories of you growing up with your, bumbus, preparing the masi. Oh, okay. Isa. All right. Yeah. Yeah. But it's really good to know that masi was widespread all around Fiji. Yeah, if I recall as well, even in Kandavu too, Tauchoan, we used to have masi too. I remember my mom was saying that when she was growing up, like as a little girl, she remembered the dundua, the big piece of wood that they put the masi on, the woke to beat. She still remember the ike lying around the house, the dundua, and there were so many plants behind the house, but no one was harvesting it or or doing anything with it because I think the ones who were making it have passed away. So it's I hope that the women of Vatulele can and more they can continue the tradition. Bless their hearts. Oh, nice.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, these pieces are very clear that it's from Vatulele. Oh, I wish it was from Vatulele. This is from Taveuni. Yeah, these are very distinct prints, only known in that part of the country. In Taveuni. This is, I think, the Masim Bolambola. Just black and white and a hint of brown. Yeah. Wonder how old these are.
You hardly see these designs nowadays, eh? These ones.
No. Yeah. Hardly find these designs. These are really, really special. And you can see the tassels on the side. I remember when we were doing the pickup sessions at the Fijian session down in the vault. Yeah, it's just amazing to see the various designs and knowing where the designs come from. And I think that's something that is very unique for Fiji, Rebecca and Dr. Yumiko. Yeah, that some of these designs, you look at them, you know straight away, whether they're from Mode or Vatulele or Nayau or Taveuni or another parts of the Kaunrove. So they still have the signature mark, which I think is very unique and special for Fiji.
Are those patterns used on other things apart from Masi as well?
Yeah, my understanding, these are only for the Masi. Yeah. Myself growing up, I've never seen these patterns on anything else but the Masi from the Vakonrove province.
Joana, if you'd like to share a little bit about the symbolism of each motifs in ancient times. I know nowadays it's mainly a lot of it, this still has a lot of its meaning, but a lot of that has been lost nowadays. But I remember you sharing with me once that these were almost like a certain language back in old times with each symbol, yeah?
When I was growing up, my grandmother used to say there were hidden language in our Masi. Like if there was a function, they would ring the bell, the wooden, the lali, to send the message through. But sometimes before that, before they started using the lali, they used to send the Masi for the language part, for the news of whatever was going to happen. And this is the way, it went back to the way they printed the Masi. They had specific motifs for specific word, I guess, for them at the time, to send the message to the next village, or there was a meeting for the chiefs of that particular area. And it was, I used to sit there and listen to my mbumbu, to my grandmother talking. And as a child, you wouldn't take it in, but, you would think, oh, this is so boring. There was nothing to look at, but just to listen to the stories. But I'm so thankful today that it was stored in my memory about the patterns in the Masi and what they mean. Just looking at these ones, I could pick up on those pointy ones on the bottom, on the edges. They would mean two things. One would be symbolizing the mountains, the mountain peaks, or the other one would be the shark's teeth. And there's the arrows in the middle there, running through. And they would symbolize the tip of the spears, because some of the clans, there was Mbati or the warrior, and depending on what clan they came from, they would use different weapons. And that's where the tips of the spear, that for that particular clan. So looking at these motifs here, to me, it tells me two things, which is the spear and the shark's teeth. And it's appropriate because the shark's teeth, because this comes from that particular province where they are surrounded by the ocean.
I think what's interesting as well, Joana, I remember you were sharing one time that these artists, because they allocating space on the tapa cloth to fill it up with their patterns and the designs and so forth. I remember you saying that a lot of this would just be done just by them looking at it, and they would just allocate space in their mind and think, okay, this is what I'll fill in this corner and in the middle and so forth. And it's almost as if their artistic eyes would just recognize patterns in everything that they saw, even with when you were saying that the missionaries and the Europeans arrived, that a lot of Masi nowadays, if you see the one on the wall behind me, the edges that you were mentioning about the frills of the, you know, that colonial, that Victorian era. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. Never picked up on it until you pointed it out.
Yes, a lot of our Masi, they have those lace-looking patterns. Yes, they came from those times. Yeah, but it always stays on the edge of the Masi, never in the middle.
Right.
Yes. So if you look at the Masi, and if it has those patterns, anything else inside of the Masi in the middle, it would be their traditional patterns, and never the lace pattern. Changing as time changes, you know, artists are changing in the way they see art.
Would anyone like to share anything about the process of going from the bark of the tree to these beautiful mats that we see?
Yes, well, I'll jump in, and maybe someone can pick up where I've left off. The process, of course, is the harvesting. They go out and they harvest these trees when they're mature and they're ready. It's brought back into the village, of course, and then they all sit around. 2 or 3 ladies would sit and start the process of peeling the bark of these trees. And of course, the inner bark, which is white, that's what they need for the Masi. So they peel the 2 layers off, the outer skin and the inner bark, and then they roll up the inner bark, and it's soaked in water, and it stays there the next day. Then it's ready for the process of beating. Yeah, if you go into a village where they make the Masi, you can hear these ringing with the mallet, banging away on the bark of the Masi, and you know, oh wow, the processing has started. Yes, over to you, Tau.
Yes, and I think if I can add on to into the process of the coloring, because I know it was mentioned before earlier about the mangrove. I remember when we brought Raila Langande Noqu into one of our sessions, and they were talking about the sources of those black colors and the sources of those brown colors as well. Very interesting, yeah, to see the plant, because they use the black soot in some places, but also they also use the mangrove too. I think what, if I remember from Ngande, she was saying that there's something about the mangrove, the color of the mangrove is very shiny and it's quite permanent. And it sticks onto the Masi, and then the brown color. But for the Lawan Masi, I'm sure this is applicable to more, was the use of the red clay, the umea. What was the island where Randini Mere is from, Tau? Is it Ongea or Namuka?
Must be Namuka.
Namuka, eh?
Namuka.
So that's an interesting part as well about in the case of the Lao province. You know, they actually go to another island to go and get the red clay, because that clay can give that brown color that they're after. So yeah, the discussion of the dyeing process, it's another interesting long process as well. So I really admire our grandmothers with the Voivoi and now with the Masi, the patience that they have to go through all those processes and knowing the plants that are the sources of those colors. Yeah, Pati, you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, just it's good to see that our young people are still very interested. As you'll see, almost, you know, the majority of 21sts nowadays, you'll see them in their traditional dress. And yeah, no, it's a good thing to see. I mean, because we're not only supporting the industry, but we're also helping to perpetuate this art form, by supporting it. So yeah, it's great to see that it's still very vibrant. Yeah.
In terms of the dye with the mangrove, it's the skin of handongo, or the mangrove, that's scraped. Sometimes they, because it's so red, the stain will never come off your clothes if you get it on your clothes. So then it's boiled, and then it's mixed with soot. The soot is created with just lighting a candle in a tin till that candle goes out, and then they scrape all that black soot, and they're mixed together to make the dye that becomes the ink for the masi. It's a long process. Today there's different what do you call it, artists, masi printers. They make their own particular dyes that's only known to each printer, which is interesting too. The process they go through to create their dyes, and they're all natural dyes. There's nothing, no chemical in them.
I believe, Joana, even the ink in itself has a natural deterrent for bugs and insects to eat it. It kind of repels them. The genius of our ancestors who knew what to do so that our beautiful artwork wouldn't be eaten. Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. So these printers, our aunties, our bumbus, they had this natural gift to find these natural plants to create such beautiful work. Till this day, it still amazes me when I see works that we had looked at at the museum. Masi was one of them. To see the work back then, it was so amazing to me, the way they looked to nature to create the inks that they needed for their masi.
Yeah, not forgetting the glue when they have other, if it gets bigger than what we're looking at the moment, when it's bigger, especially the talanoa, the large ones. Interesting how they use natural glue. They use kind of like the yambia nibiti, that's what they call it, like an arrowroot. It looks like a potato, but it's not the modern day one, but it's the one that grow back home. But they use that. An interesting party that you shared that, when you look at the dye. One thing I like about the more traditional style of or the method of dyeing is that a lot of these they don't they never attract pests, like those little manu, the little insects, to come and eat the masi. And it's like the one thing I heard about the modern day masi makers. I think they just go the shortcut way, where they're just using the flour. They just mix the flour they buy from the shop, And little do they know that in the long term, or maybe short term, because it doesn't live long, because the glue, it doesn't stay long. Yeah. Anyone wants to add to that in terms of, comparing the traditional glue to those using the modern day glue? I just really admire the olden days, is what Joana said. They knew the plants, but also the plants doesn't attract insects. And I'm sure the conservators of the museum will be very happy.
Yes, the glue that they're using today. Because I bought a Masi couple of years back, and I could smell kerosene in it. And this was actually mixed with the flour. The idea was the kerosene was to stop any bugs from eating into the Masi. And you could actually see the flour and the back of the Masi.
Yeah. So maybe it's about time, we could maybe keep reviving, some of the ancient methods, because a lot of these plants are still there. Maybe we can talk to the Masi, make on to the old ways, because that's the thing that will keep the Masi longer. They will remain hanging on your living room, or if you use it for the ceremony, you can use it more than one time. Very interesting point.
Yumiko, in the Flora Vitiensis, which is a book of the plants of Fiji, it's featured in one of the blogs in our website, it also covers some of the uses of the plants as well. So I'm just wondering if maybe there's also some of this knowledge held in that book linked to, I guess, the scientific names there as well.
Sure. Yes, the author, Seaman, he's a German-born botanist. He was quite keen on recording some of the use that he gathered around while he was collecting. He lived there for 6 months, so he had a good period of time to collate this traditional knowledge gathered from where he was staying in a village, or the assistance he had from local area. So yes, I have a look, and later if I find any knowledge about usage of this blue glue that they mentioned, that I found it really fascinating, or some flowers to deter insects. If that's mentioned, then I upload onto the website.
Nice.
I was also interested in some flower scent was developed it as a perfume to use in Masi, for instance, Masi Ratu. Seaman, the the latest flora of Fiji mentioned that Masi Ratu was used to scent Masi. So maybe there were other plants also, like Ilan has got very sweet scent. Maybe used for Masi as well. Do you know any use of scented flower to perfume Masi?
Wow. It's interesting, because the only one, if I remember, with the Masi that had flowers in more perfume was Hawaiian kappa. I've seen a lot of Hawaiian kappa that flowers embedded in it, which had fragrance. But I'm not sure about the Fijian one. So I'm really pleased you mentioned that, Dr. For sharing that. The Masi Ratu. Tau and Pate or Anna? Are you familiar with any of that?
No, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Masibatu, it's related closely to the magnolia of New Zealand, isn't it? The magnolia tree.
In a bigger sense,
Right.
that belongs to
And
a bigger group of magnolia, but it's
a
in the
softer wood.
individual family.
Yeah. It's a softer
Softwood,
wood, isn't
yes.
it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm.
So shall we open?
Yeah, and you mentioned the flower. I think that's a mokusoi. Mokusoi.
Yes.
Mm.
Shall we
You
open
can do
up?
some research, and give you the full info.
Sure.
That'll be really good.
I'll update on the website then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pinaka.
Thank you. Pinaka.
If anyone's got any questions, feel free to, I guess, jump in at this point and ask any of our knowledge holders or anyone in talanoa. You should be able to unmute yourself probably on the bottom left of your screen. Yeah, Fala Nico?
Thank you. Look, thank you everyone for all that sharing in talanoa today. The question, I mean, the thing that intrigues me is the use of mangroves, you know, to get that black color for the masi. I'm just wondering if by any chance did the Fijians ever use betel nut to burn the betel nut to create black soot? And the reason why I'm asking is because oh no, not betel nut, candle nut. Sorry, candle nut. I wonder if the Fijians ever used candle nut to create the black color. Because the reason I'm asking is there's a famous tradition or a belief that the Samoan tattoo that we now have was originally brought to Samoa by twin sisters from Fiji, and before they have all these modern ink now, the Samoans used to use candle nut. They used to burn the candle nut and create and gather the black soot, and that's what used the black. And that's where they got the black color for the tattooing. So I'm just wondering whether at any time in the arts and crafts of Fiji, a candle nut was ever used. Black burnt candle nut. Binaka.
Yeah, Naka, I'll pass that question to Dr. T, if you don't mind.
You're still with us.
Would you like to unmute yourself, Tarisi?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hola, Tarisi.
Dr. Faranico for the question. Yes, we do use the we call it sikevi.
Oh, yeah.
Sikevi is the Fijian word for candle nut.
Yeah.
So when we were talking to Ngande from Mother Island, she was referring a lot to the mangrove. But very interesting, I did an interview with one of our ladies from the Lau province, from the island of Ono Lau. And she was mentioning to me that when she was growing up, she remembered her mom and her great-grandmother and her grandmother still making their masi, but they don't make masi anymore today. So it was really beautiful to hear her memories being shared. And I'm just going through my notebook. When I interviewed her, she was using some really interesting words which referred to the use of the candle nut as the source of the black ink. And there were two types of masi that they used to make at the time. One was called tutuki. And then I asked her, what does tutuki mean? And she said that the tutuki Oh, here, I've got my notes here. The tutuki was more for the use of the Masi for weddings. So that's the one that they use for, you know, as a body decoration or something to wear. And they also have a different type of Masi, which is used like as a room divider. Like the talanoa. Yeah, the big pieces. I think one of them will look like the one that Pate has behind him, like it's large pieces. So that was the memories that she was sharing with me. But definitely laudi was used, and the candle nut, the suit of the candle nut was used.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's really nice to see that the island of Ono, they use the candle nut for the black ink.
Vinaka Vakalevu Dr. Tarisi. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone?
And if I can add one more point.
You go.
Yes, can I add one more point to the question that was being asked? What she mentioned as well, this special lady from Ono, her name is Susanna Yali Kanavea. She's from Ono, Lau, but married to the island of Vivia. What she said was that interesting, when they used the candle nut on the Masi, she mentioned that the color was much darker, and she used the word milolo. Milolo was, it's a very Lauan word that actually means that the black color was very dark and shiny. And she said that she knows which Masi doesn't use the candle nut and which Masi does. So every time, and they're very proud of the fact that there's a lot of cicada trees around Ono, and they could use the candle nut to process it like that. They take out the nut from inside the shell, and then they put a long stick inside of the little soft nut, and then they burn it. And then they collect the black soot. So very interesting to see how she described the color that the laudi makes on the Masi.
Can I ask one more question, please, Rebecca? So obviously for Samoans, the soot from the burnt candle nut is what we used to do the tattooing. I'm just wondering, was it ever used for tattooing in Fiji?
So Joana, over to you, madam.
Right up her alley.
Yes, they did. They did.
Okay.
And we did go somewhere two years ago, Tarisi, and to visit one of the tattooing places in Fiji, and we did find a candle nut in there. Yes.
Vinaka.
Yeah, they were using that for their ink back in the day. Yeah, and I think you found it, didn't you, Dr. Tarisi?
It connects the two countries. Yes, I was very happy to see it, Joana. So we came into that area, and it's all based on oral traditions, and that moment was a very moving moment when we were talking about the process of tattooing with the elders of the island that we visited. And here, when we walked into the very space where they did the tattooing, I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, and there, right on the floor, lying a piece of candle nut. And that was a very special moment. So we picked it up and we bagged it, and now it's at the Fiji Museum. Yeah, thank you, Tao, for reminding me about that day. Yeah.
Awesome day, awesome day.
I was going to ask, so then we've been talking about these plants used to make masi and pandanus and also dye them. Do they grow in New Zealand as well? Or is it kind of a climate limit?
once upon a time, one time when Ngandi and I were looking in through our, going here and there, we both agreed there's a lot of mangroves around. And we said we'll be thrown in prison if we did go and harvest them. So it's best to leave it alone, eh? Yeah, I don't know. I think we can bring them in from the islands, these natural dyes, if you go through the proper channels. Even the clay, I know certain people use the clay today in their Masi printing. Yeah.
I think I saw Tui Emagilis tau.
Yes.
They got some plants up north.
Yeah.
Some of the Masi plants. They live
That's
up in the Bay of Islands, Rebecca. Yeah. So they've just been gifted some tupper prints. But I have a very interesting story to share about harvesting the mangroves. So tau, if I don't know, maybe it's okay for me to share because it actually happened, but it's many years ago. So I don't think the authorities will come after me. We actually drove over. When we were in Auckland, my oldest sister, Vili Sidama, she came to stay with me for a few months, and she's married to a gentleman. My brother-in-law is from one island. And so my sister was wanting to make some masi at home. And so I told her, oh, what ink you're gonna use? And so she was explaining about the mangroves. And so I told her, oh, we have lots of mangroves just after the Auckland Harbour Bridge. And so we drove over to the Auckland Harbour Bridge, just across, towards Takapuna area. We made a U-turn and we came down, parked the car, and we jumped out and started cutting the mangroves. And then the police came and visited us just behind our car. So they just came and told us, ladies, what are you two doing? And we said, oh, we want to make tapa, and these plants are used for the dye. And so the guy was very nice. He told us, whatever you can, which you have in your hands, you can wrap it nicely, put it in your car, and you can head off home right away. And so very interesting, yeah, that we can still see the plants in New Zealand, but yeah, as Joana said, there you have to abide by the rule.
Just adding to the dye, they also use the bark of mango trees for the yellow. Okay.
Just to Ewan here, just to answer Rebecca's question about which ones are growing in New Zealand. Paper mulberry does grow in New Zealand, but being tropical, it grows fairly poorly, but certainly does grow. The pandanus, there's pandanus, the tropical one on the coast in Fiji, doesn't grow in New Zealand. But some species of pandanus from more upland Papua New Guinea, that does grow in Auckland. I'm not sure about the quality, how it compares for the fibre. Candle nut from the tropical Pacific certainly grows in Auckland quite well.
Wow.
And the mangroves growing in New Zealand are quite a different species, unrelated, different genus from the mangroves in Fiji, but maybe have some similar qualities.
Oh, interesting.
Naka.
Do we have any other questions from the talanoa? Have any of our knowledge holders got anything else they would like to add before we wrap up for the evening?
Joana, just to add a little bit on the mango, which you was just sharing about the yellow dye.
Yes. Growing up, that was also used for medicine, the bark. Before that, again, growing up, I was told that that was also used for soaking the white masi to make them yellow. But later on, they found, Tao, you might know the name. It's related to the ginger root that's used to make the yellow.
Wow, like the turmeric, eh?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So they've stopped using the bark of the mango, and they use the root of the ginger family. Yeah.
And yeah, very interesting. Yeah, with the colors. Yeah, the colors as well that depicts. That was another thing I wanted to share, Rebecca, with the tapa, with our masi. It also symbolizes our rank. So it has cultural uses and purposes. So the dark brown masi or the masi kubui are used by those of royalty. And the other Masi Kesa with a black and white color, anyone below the chiefly rank or what we call the talanoa, or the commoners, can wear those. So yeah, just wanted to share that point that these beautiful treasures and taonga that we are learning about today has so much depth into them, apart from their own beauty. They have so much stories that we can learn from, and especially the ranking. That certain type of masi is worn by special people or categories of our different tribes within Fiji.
Naka.
Well, if that is everybody, I would like to say a really big Vinaka Vakalevu. And I'll, Mama Joana, would you like to do a closing prayer before we wrap it up with a couple of farewells?
Before I wrap up, I just want to thank each and every one of you for sharing this evening. I hope we all have learned something. I know you've taught me some things, and I hope I have done the same for you as well. Thank you again, and happy Fiji Language Week. Let's head in prayer. Heavenly Father, we just want to honor you and thank you. Thank you, Lord, for this evening. Thank you for each and every one of us that have contributed tonight. And we pray, Lord, for the rest of our week, that we will carry on enjoying our Fiji Language Week and the big celebration on Saturday regarding 50 years of Fiji independence. We thank you, Father, and we always honor you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Naka. Naka Vakalevu.
Naka.
Olivia?
Vinaka Vakalevu, everybody. I want to thank you. It's been such an honor and a privilege to sit with you and hear about our ancestors who were so connected to our elements and nature, and understood how they worked on in writing and communications and in beauty as well. It's been so wonderful. I just also want to acknowledge Pakilau and Siolupe Falaniko and Anna Pickering from the Pacific Advisory Group who joined us today, and of course our amazing knowledge holders, Tarisi, Joana, and Alipate.
Naka. Thank you for the opportunity to talanoa with you all.
On behalf of our natural sciences team, it's been really wonderful taking part in these talanoa, and we look at the specimens often with our science view, so it's been so wonderful to broaden that out to see how they're used and how they're valued outside of how we look at them in most days. I think it really brings a lot of depth and connection into our collections. So Vinaka Vakalevu to Tarisi and Alipate, and especially to Joana for helping facilitate this, and also to Marika, who unfortunately wasn't able to get in, I don't think, but we will see if he has anything to add for our website. And I just want to say, please visit our Fijian Language Week website for more blogs. We've got some really wonderful information and pictures of the Masiratu and the Flora Vitiensis, the book about the Fijian flora. There's a lot of Fijian objects and specimens on there, as well as a colouring in sheet on the Masiratu. So this talanoa is going to go up tomorrow on our website. Please feel free to share widely on social media and with your community. And also, now that Auckland has returned to level 1 with the rest of New Zealand, we're really looking forward to welcoming people back into the museum space. So feel free to reach out if you'd like to view some of the treasures that are cared for here within our collections.
Barbara, thank you so much.
Mode.
Yeah.
And Tarisi, if you can hang around for a little bit, that would be wonderful.
Mahalo, Tarisi.
Mode tau.
Vinaka malo. Yeah. Mahalo.
Vinaka Vakalevu.
See you tomorrow, Pate.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Let me just stop the recording.